Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Basic Education Board.
Hello dear student, a very warm welcome to the TV learning programs. As usual, I'm about teacher Herbert, and today I'll be very grateful to be senior 3 class biology and all form 3 biology class. And we are coming to unit 23, which is natural and artificial selection, all right? So we're going to have lesson 1. Lesson 1 will be concerning about natural and artificial selection, all right? So student, the lesson has one learning objective. It's used to describe natural selection, selective breeding, the role of artificial selection, and even what we call evolution, okay? Evolution, sorry, all right? So evolution, when we talk about something that evolved, we're going to talk about how some of the species can be evolved, okay? Evolution, all right? So, students, we've had the learning objective. I hope you are ready with a pen and a notebook so that you can take the notes as well as you are doing the lesson assessment with me. So, student, you know, most of the time when I'm going to start my lesson, I do give something, the diagram, to come up with the idea on what we're going to talk about today. So the ideas are here, student. We have some diagrams that which you see. What do you see in the diagram? On my eyes, I can see there are 2 butterflies. One is dark-colored moth, another one is a light-colored moth. Okay? They have 2 colors. One is called melanic form, and another one is light-colored moth. How can it be evolved? How can we have these 2 flowers of different colors? We have something that we also have to see, which is, you see the plant is trying to climb another plant. These are some of the adaptations that enables the plant to get more sunlight, all right? So you see the diagrams and you can come up with the answers, all right? So students, let's go through our lesson. Let's have the introduction of the lesson. When you look around your environment, you realize that plants and animals live or die according to their ability to survive in the environment, okay? Most of animals, they die. Some plants, they die, okay? And others, they die according to their ability to survive in the environment. For example, plants are always competing with others for light and even water. They go in such a kind of competition, all right? So animals, on the other hand, they compete for food, space, mates, and even shelter. So in this process, some of these organisms, they will survive, while others, they will die in competition. When we come to competition, some organisms will die, and others, they will do what? They will be able to survive if they are able to develop what you call favorable characteristics or strong characteristics that enables them to survive in that environment. It's very clear. I think you're understanding what I'm talking about, all right? So we said this process is known as what you call selection process. When you talk about selection process, that is, we've been talking about on our chalkboard, we're talking about natural and artificial selection. So that one involves what you call selection process. When it happens naturally, it is natural selection. When it happens artificially, okay, that one is called artificial selection. Are you with me on the same page with me? If you're with me, that's good. Bravo. Let's go ahead. When it happens naturally, when a selection happens naturally, it is natural selection. Sometimes human beings influence such a selection they influence such a selection process by manipulating the environment. When they manipulate the environment, this is known as what you call artificial selection. Have you got what I'm talking about? There are 2 types of selection. There are selections that are normally made naturally, and there are some of the selections that are made artificially. That is when the human beings, they manipulate the environment, and eventually we have what you call some of the species are going to be selected artificially. So this is the diagram, a climbing of plants and tall trees in the forest. Maybe in a forest where there are some of the plants that are trying to climb trees in order to reach where there is sunlight, all right? So in that process, we're going to see this can just be selected naturally, natural selection, okay? So the term evolution is derived from the word evolve, all right? So, which means a gradual change over a long period of time. Then when we talk about people evolved from monkeys and apes, from chimpanzee, that's when we talk about evolution. So evolution is a theory. When put into a theory, the evolution theory tries to explain how the great diversity of animals and plants that can exist on the earth today has become to be, all right? Animals has been evolved. Plants has been evolved. So we are now how we are because of what you call evolution. And what makes that one? It suggests that life on the earth began from a simple form, which then slowly evolved into the present day of an organism we are now, all right? So to me, that is evolution. We started as a small form organism. Now we are now a complex organism. When you talk about a complex organism in biology, it means a multicellular organism. So this was because the original simple forms of organisms underwent minor changes that accumulated over millions of years. Thus, that is referred to as selection. Because there are some that were being selected by the environment. There are some that were never selected by the environment. And those who were never selected by the environment, they were able to die. But those who are selected by the environment, they are able to become a new individual, and they are able to do prosperity. They are able to make what you call reproduction. Are you on the same page with me, student? If you are together, that's great. Bravo and flowers. I give you flowers, all right? Flowers, those who are following me very well. So this leads to the great variation of complex plants and even animals we have today. We are now complex. We have complex plants. We have complex animals that we have today. Therefore, selection is evolution engineer. What causes that evolution? Evolution is the engineer of having some of the species that we have today. So selection acting on a random variation makes an adaptive evolution possible. That is very clear. All right. Let's talk about natural selection. We are starting with that point, which is natural selection. Okay? So when we talk about natural selection, it's the process whereby an organism with favorable characteristics survive and produce more offspring than organisms with less favorable characteristics. Let's have an example. Human beings, you are put in a certain environment. When you are put in a certain environment, the environmental conditions are changing day by day. When environmental conditions are changing day by day, it means you are able to adapt or die. This is what you call adapt or die, what you call survival for the fittest in biology. Okay? Those organisms that will develop stronger or favorable characteristics, they are able to survive and produce offspring. Than those organisms with less favorable characteristics, they will not survive, they will die. So in many populations of organisms, many new individuals are always produced. However, it is observed that the population of these organisms remains more or less constant. Good. The reason for this is that some natural factors in the environment causes the death. As I talked it in a previous lesson. All right? Causes death of some of the organisms. Such factors include insufficient food. All right? Diseases can also cause a decline in population and etc. So these can be caused by overcrowding and competition between the organisms. As a result, this creates a struggle for existence. All right? If there is less food, if there is a disease, automatically organisms will start struggling for existence. So this causes some of organisms to die and others to survive if there is a competition, if there is a struggle for existence. All right? They will cause a struggle for existence because this causes some of the organisms to die and others to survive. The reason why not all organisms survive this competition is because their characteristics are not the same. They don't have the same characteristics. Okay? If they don't have same characteristics, it means that some organisms will be able to survive and others they will die. Okay? All right. So there is a variation in characteristics. When we talk about variation, it means what you call varies and difference. That is, a variation means varies in their characteristics of their species. So these variations are of two types. We talked about those variations that enable the organs to survive, to compete. Effectively are referred to as beneficial or favorable characteristics. Student, you can take a note of that if you are with me, on the same page with me, about natural selection. So those variations that enables an organ to compete effectively are referred to as beneficial or favorable variations. The variations that do not enable an organ to compete effectively are referred to as non-beneficial variations. All right? So the beneficial variations are referred to as the adaptations. When we talk about beneficial variations, in other words, I'm talking about adaptations. What are adaptations that enables a plant to live in a desert area? What are the adaptations that enables some of the organs to live in arid environment, in a desert environment? What are the adaptations that enables some of the plants to live in gorged water areas? That is to say, I'm talking about in water gorged areas. It means in swamp areas. That is, we talk about hydrophytes, all right? In biology, they're called hydrophytes. So an adaptation is an inheritable characteristics. We talk about inheritable, we talked about in terms of genetics. You inherit some of the genes. You inherit a character or a trait in biology, okay? So adaptation is an inheritable characteristic that improves the organism's chances of survival in an environment because they are giving the chances of surviving in an environment. All right? So there is a survival for the fittest. If they develop a strong character that enables that organ to survive in that environment, that is called, these are beneficial characteristics or favorable, these are called favorable characteristics or adaptations that enables an organism to fit or chances to survive in the environment. So this is referred as survival for the fittest. Are you with me? Thank you. So in nature, we talk about in nature, what is to talk about in nature? Environmental conditions keeps changing. That is obvious. There is environmental conditions. Today it is very hot, tomorrow it will be cold, tomorrow in another day it will be a dry season, another day it will just be rainy season. So the environmental conditions keeps changing. It keeps changing. Once the environmental conditions keeps changing, automatically that will say, it means that the changes to the environment will always survive. Those are organisms that have the adaptations that enables it to survive in that environment, they are able to survive in that environment, okay? Those organisms that do not have the adaptation to changes the environment will always be eliminated. Why are they going to be eliminated? They're going to be eliminated in that environment because they don't have beneficial adaptations or they don't have the strong adaptation that enables them to survive in the environment, all right? So this way, beneficial variations or adaptations enables an organ to survive in a competitions and able to grow to reach into maturity. Are you with me? When they have a beneficial variations or when they have a strong adaptations, they enable an organism to survive the competition and grow to maturity. So these organisms passes on their variations to their offsprings, of course. As a result, the organism with beneficial variations increases in number in a given population. If they have beneficial variations or they have strong adaptive features, they are able to increase in their number in their population. Good. So the organisms with non-beneficial variations do not survive the competition. And that is very clear. If they don't have strong adaptations or they have what you call, they have non-beneficial variations. If they have non-beneficial variations, it means that they do not survive the competition. They will not survive in the competition. So meaning that they will not reach into maturity. They will die because they are not able to stand the competition. As a result, they do not grow to maturity, to reproduce and pass their characteristics to their offsprings. All right. So organisms with non-beneficial variation, therefore, reduces in number in a given population. So the number in their population will decrease because they have non-beneficial characteristics or variations. Okay? So organisms with non-beneficial variation, they therefore reduces in number in a given population. It is as if the nature is selecting some organisms to live and some to die. That is something very clear. This environment is selecting some of the organisms to die and is selecting other organisms to live. We talk about what you call natural selection, all right? Natural selection. Are you with me? So Once they have, these are referred to as natural selection. They have been selected naturally. If they have been selected naturally, they are able to develop what you call beneficial variations or beneficial adaptation that enables it to survive in that environment, all right? I said we have what you call the famous scientist. I'm going to talk about, there's a famous scientist who discussed about natural selection. It's called Charles Darwin. They state about the theory of Charles Darwin. He studied this phenomenon of natural selection. He carried out a phenomenon of natural selection, which later came to be what you call the Darwin theory of natural selection. Darwin's theory of natural selection. What does Darwin's theory of natural selection talk about? Darwin worked together with Alfred Wallace to formulate the theory, which says that members of species compete with each other for resources, and that individuals that are able to adapt to the lifestyle have a better chances of surviving to reproduce. Students, take a note of natural selection. This is for senior 3, but also it goes for senior 6. When we talk about the Darwin theory of natural selection, what does it state? He worked with the Wallace, and they formulated a theory which says that members of the species compete with each other for resources, and that individuals that are better adapted to their lifestyle have a better chances of surviving to reproduce. If they have a better chances of adapting to the lifestyle, they're able to reproduce the young ones, and they multiply, and they also increase in the size of the population. Good. That is the Darwin theory, which is called a portrait of Charles Darwin. When we talk about Charles Darwin, is the one who formulated a theory concerning about natural selection. It means that those that have adapted to the lifestyles, they have what you call favorable adaptations. They have a chances of surviving and able to reproduce. That is Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection. So if you have a strong or a beneficial characteristics, strong adaptations, you are able to survive in the environment, and you are able to reproduce and multiply in the population. So natural selection causes evolution. Evolution because with time and over many generations, favorable adaptations gradually accumulates in these species. That is obvious. While the unfavorable ones disappears, those who have favorable characteristics, they are able to multiply and produce young ones. Those that do not have strong characteristics, they will not multiply, they will disappear. Okay? This leads to what you call changes and evolution in the species. That's why you have what you call evolution in species. Sometimes the accumulated changes become so many that the eventual outcome may be species that cannot reproduce and have their viable offsprings with the original ones. This means that the gradual changes have gradual change with time. Okay? The gradual changes has led to formation of new species, and this is called speciation in biology. You can talk about speciation, which is meaning refers the gradual changes that has led to formation of new species. If there's a gradual change and it leads to formation of new species in biology, we call it what we call speciation. They are being speciated, that is the speciation. Gradual change and forms a new species, and biology is referred to as speciation. Good. So we talk about evolution occurs mostly and continuously over millions of years. We talked about, they mentioned we started as apes and monkeys, but we evolved because of evolution. We are now the way we are now, all right? So over millions of years, natural selection is occurring. So other sources of variation that contributes to natural selection in species includes mutation. When I talk about mutation, it is not your first time to hear the word mutation. Mutation refers to the genetic change of genes, the change of genetic makeup of an organism. Okay? Once the genes has been changed, that one is referred as mutation. Recombination of genes as a result of what we call sexual reproduction. Those who are studying biology, you talk about recombination in meiosis 1 of the prophase. When you talk about recombination, that is crossing over. Once the chromosome changes their genetic material during recombination, automatically is what you call exchange of a portion of materials of genes, and eventually brings what you call recombination of genes as a result of what you call asexual reproduction in meiosis, not in mitosis. So recombination, crossing over, takes place in meiosis, not in mitosis. All right. So you go back and also revise on meiosis. All right. Meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. See what are the characteristics of meiosis 1, what are the characteristics of meiosis 2. Migration of individuals between populations, which leads to introduction of new genes in a population. Because if some organisms, they migrate from one place to another place, automatically there must be what you call exchange of genes, and which leads into production of new population, which is good. Okay, let's go through again. An example of natural selection is exhibited by the prepared moth, what you call Biston buteria. This is a moth commonly found in England. There are two types of such a moth. Talk about the moth, which varies in body color. I saw you the diagram when I was starting the lesson. They vary in terms of their color, okay? There are two types of such a moth which varies in their body color. These variations in color are light body color and dark body color. The variations are genetically determined. The dark body color is, in the moth is due to the pigment called melanin, whose occurrence is caused by a mutation. Mutation, I said, the change of genes. The moth with this body color is called melanic form, and this type was very rare in England before industrialization. But now there are very many because and after industrialization, it was observed that the number of melanic forms increased because they have developed what you call, they have been selected naturally. They have developed what you call beneficial variations or strong adaptations around the areas with the industries. This phenomenon illustrates the table below. We have a light-colored moth and the dark one. The dark one survived because they developed what you call adaptive features. They are not easier to be allocated by the predators. If they are not easier to be allocated by the predators, they are able to survive and they are able to multiply and they are able to increase in their population. I was a student, so the light-colored moth were not able to multiply in their population because the reason is this: because one, they were light. They were able to be allocated by the prey. You know what you call a prey predator, okay? A prey is being killed, then a predator is the one that hunts and kills another organ for food, all right? So the light one were not selected by the environment, so the dark one was selected by environment. We go to Darwin's theory. Those that have favorable characteristics, they are able to survive in the environment, and they have a chances of surviving. Those that don't have favorable characteristics, they are not able to multiply and increase in their population. Okay? So students, we've talked about natural selection, okay? Where I said some of the organisms are naturally selected. They're able to survive in that environment because they are naturally selected, okay? We have some that are not being selected by the environment. It means they don't have a chance of surviving. They will die. And if they die, it means that their population will drop down or will decrease. Okay? We stated the Darwin theory. Who can remind me the theory of Darwin? Okay? We said also what causes natural selection. I said a number of things that can cause natural selection. I talked about mutation. I talked about the recombination of genes as a result, what you call as a result of sexual reproduction, not asexual reproduction. Another thing that I talked about that brings what you call natural selection, migration of individuals between populations, which leads to introduction of new species in the population. As you see, and the melanic butterfly, the white ones, and the black ones. Because of migration, they have been selected by environment. The black ones were able to be selected by environment. Then here is the Darwin theory. This is the Darwin theory, which states that, in a natural selection, Darwin theory says that the members of the species compete with each other for resources, and that individuals that are able to adapt to their lifestyle, they are able to adapt to their lifestyles, have a better chances of surviving to reproduce and multiply and increase in population. Very good. So I'm coming to the end of the lesson, but student, I can't leave you without testing your understanding. So I'm going to leave you with almost like 3 numbers. So you have to go through these numbers and you're able to understand. Number 1, through a careful observation, Charles Darwin came to understand that population of plants and animals in nature, most of them are often consist of individuals that are clones of others. Second, B, those individuals whose variation gives them an advantage in staying alive long enough to produce and more likely to pass their traits on the next generation. C, a population of species that become isolated from others by adapting to different environmental niches quickly become not existed, become extinct. Then D or above are correct. Number 2, what causes the following in the theory of natural selection? Struggle for existence, survival for the fittest. That is two things you choose among the 2. Then number 3, distinguish between beneficial variation and non-beneficial variation. Student, thank you very much for your active participation and listening. I wish you the best and enjoy the rest of the day. See you next time. Bye.